And that while the White House wants to ban the term Islamic extremism as the reason for certain terror events that have happened in this country, Senator Joe Lieberman says that is not only offensive, but he says it is a big mistake.
It's a group of Islamist extremism who've taken the Muslim religion and made it into a political ideology. And I think if we're not clear about that, we disrespect the overwhelming majority of Muslims who are not extremists.
All right, so should that language stay, and how important is that? A fair and balanced debate is coming up right after this. Well, Senator Joe Lieberman really criticizing the White House for banning the term Islamist extremism in talking in a document about the global war on terror. Now, Joe Lieberman wrote a letter to the president, to his top advisor of counterterrorism, Chief John Brennan, and he talked about that letter with Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday. And this is part of the letter. This is a quote. "The failure to identify our enemy for what it is, violent Islamist extremism, is offensive and contradicts thousands of years of accepted military and intelligence doctrine to know your enemy." I'm joined now by David Webb. He's a conservative radio talk show host and a member of the Tea Party, and radio talk show host Mark Levine. Welcome to both of you, gentlemen. Good to have you here today.
Good to be here.
Thank you. Mark, let me start with you. What do you think about that? Is Joe Lieberman right?
No, I don't think he is. You know, Teddy Roosevelt once said, "You speak softly and carry a big stick." President Obama has done very good with the big stick. More attacks on Pakistan than in the first year than all of the 8 years of the Bush presidency, killing some very powerful leaders. But speaking softly is important, too. Every time we use the word Islam, we are offending a billion peaceful Muslims. Our battle is not with Islam. It's with a perversion of Islam, what they might call an Islam takfir.
Yeah, that's what an extremist is. That's what an extremist is. That's why that's
so let's call an extremist for what it is. Let's call them extreme. Let's say that it's the violent extremists we oppose.
Islamist extremists.
Let me give you an example. When we fought the Nazis, we didn't call them the Nazi Germans so much. We fought communist Russia. We didn't focus on the fact that it was Russians, because we know that Germans and Russians are loyal to their identity, just like Muslims are loyal to Islam. We focused on communism, on Nazism. Don't use the word Islam. Use the word violent extremist terrorism.
David West,
and you know what? We're going to get the
this?
help we need in the Muslim world.
David,
Look, Mark is fundamentally wrong, and Senator Lieberman is right. We're going against what is known, and that words do matter in the president's own words. And if we can't name an enemy and see them for what they are, and by the way, Mark, we're not offending the Muslims who are being killed in larger numbers by their own radical Islamists. They know what it is. And if we can't name an enemy from their perspective, that enemy sees us as weak. And that is a problem. Perspective matters. When we're seen as weak, well, then they consider that a few of them can affect thousands of us and kill, as they did on 9/11, as they will do to our interests around the world. And I must add that there are already existing examples in Beslan, Russia, in the Madrid, Spain bombings, where they actually went after Spain, and Spain pulled out of the Middle East conflict.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Look, recently, I was going to say, recently, we just captured the biggest attack, really threatened attack since September 11th, the proposed New York City subway bombers, Najib Azazi.
Right.
How do we get him? We got him through having agents on the ground. If we want people, allies to help us, we have to make clear this is not a war against Islam. This is a war against violent extremism and terrorism. That is very clear,
Mark. That's been made very
clear. Well, then why
clear.
use the term
because
Islam?
President Bush, talked constantly about the fact that we're not at war with Islam. We are not at war with Muslims. And David's accurately pointed out that they have been some of the, most wounded victims in this battle.
Exactly.
So,
that's exactly the
point. But when
point.
you talk about Islamic extremism, you have to understand. They did a report on Major Hassan, according to Senator Lieberman, that never mentioned Islamic radicalism. How can you, if this were a white supremacist movement, do you think that would not be mentioned?
It's amazing, Martha, that this administration...
To compare Islam to white supremacy isn't fair at all.
No, I'm not comparing Islam to white supremacy.
Yes, you are, in a sense.
I'm comparing radical Islamists, terrorists who are driven by religious fervor, to white supremacists who are also white people who are driven by a fervor that is completely misplaced. To ignore that is, I think, to just be so naive.
I think it is being naive.
I think the focus should be on radical terrorism, not on the fact that they're Islamic, just like we focused on Nazism rather than Germany. If we had said Germany is the great enemy of America, it would have been a lot harder for Germany to walk away from Nazism. We have a battle for the hearts and minds of the Muslim world, and the best way to win their hearts and minds is not to attack their religion, but to attack the perversion of their religion.
All right, David, let me give you the last thought on this.
This is political correctness gone horribly wrong. We know who the enemy is. The Muslim world knows who the enemy is. This administration can name white supremacists. They can name that former military may join white supremacists. They can name everybody but the Muslim world for what it is. It's akin to appeasement. It is a foolish strategy. It makes us look weak, and it makes it much more easy for them to consider attacking not only us, but our interests around the world.
You're both great guests, gentlemen, and I thank you very much for being with us today. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks
David.
for having me.
See you soon.